Maggie's knees hit the frozen ground. Her daughter had stopped shivering. That was the worst part. Children shiver when they're cold. They stop when they're dying. Rosie. She shook the small body in her arms. Rosie, open your eyes. Look at Mama. Nothing. Behind her, Daniel pressed against the store's back wall, his 8-year-old hands balled into fists, his lips blue. 3 hours ago, the shopkeeper had looked at her children, looked right at them, and said, "Should have spread your legs for a man who'd stay." Then he'd locked the door. Now Maggie knelt in the snow behind his store, holding her daughter's limp body, and screamed at a God who'd stopped listening long ago. If you've ever fought for someone you love, subscribe now and stay with Maggie until the very end. Tell me in the comments what city you're watching from. I want to see how far her story reaches. Mama, she ain't moving. Daniel's voice cut through the wind. Maggie pulled Rosie tighter, pressing her ear to the child's chest. A heartbeat, faint fluttering, but there. She's alive, Maggie breathed. She's alive, Daniel. Come here. Give me your hands. Daniel stumbled forward, fell to his knees beside her. His fingers were white stiff. She grabbed them, shoved them under Rosie's blanket against the child's belly. Rub, she ordered. Keep rubbing. Don't stop. She's so cold, Mama. I know. Keep rubbing. Rosie's head lolled against Maggie's shoulder. 5 years old. 32 pounds. That's what she'd weighed at the doctor's office in September, back when they still had money for doctors. She weighed less now. Maggie could feel the bones of her spine through the thin dress. Mama. Daniel's voice cracked. Is she gonna die? Maggie didn't answer. She couldn't. 3 weeks ago they'd had a roof. A leaking, rotting, freezing roof, but a roof. Then the landlord came. Your husband owes me 4 months, he'd said, not looking at her face. Pay up or get out. Please, just give me 2 more weeks. I can find work. You got till morning. She'd begged. She'd cried. She'd offered to cook, to clean, to do anything. He'd looked at her then, looked at her body, and smiled. There's one thing you could do. She'd slapped him, hard, across his fat, sweating face. They were on the street by noon. Mama. Daniel tugged her sleeve. Someone's coming. Maggie's head snapped up. Footsteps, heavy, deliberate, crunching through the snow. She pulled both children behind her, heart pounding. A man emerged from the darkness at the end of the alley. Tall, broad, moving slow. She couldn't see his face under the hat brim, but she saw the rifle slung across his back. Stay away from us, she said. Her voice didn't shake. She was proud of that. The man stopped, raised both hands, palms out. Easy, ma'am. I ain't here to hurt nobody. Then keep walking. Can't do that. Why not? Because your little girl stopped shivering 5 minutes ago, and if you don't get her warm soon, she ain't gonna start again. Maggie's blood went cold. How do you... I was a medic. In the war. The man took 1 step forward. Just one. I've seen frostbite take men twice her size. You've got maybe an hour, maybe less. The doctor. Doc Miller's drunk by sundown. Has been for 3 years. Even if he wasn't, he wouldn't come out here for... The man stopped. His jaw tightened. For someone in your situation. Maggie felt the words like a slap. Someone in your situation. A woman alone. A woman abandoned. A woman nobody wanted to help. I've got a wagon, the man said. A house 4 miles west. It's warm. There's food. I can help your girl. Why would you help us? Does it matter? Yes. The man was quiet for a moment. Then he reached up and removed his hat. His face was hard-weathered with a scar that ran from his ear to his jaw. Not young, not old. Somewhere in the middle where life had already done its damage. But his eyes, pale gray in the dim light, held something she didn't expect. Pain. Old pain worn smooth by years of carrying it. I had a wife once, he said. She got sick. I couldn't save her. He paused. I've spent 7 years wishing I'd done something different. Wishing I'd tried harder. Wishing I hadn't been so goddamn helpless. He put his hat back on. I can't save her. But maybe I can save your girl. If you let me. Maggie looked at Rosie. The child's lips were gray now, her breathing shallow. Daniel pressed against Maggie's side, trembling. She had no money, no friends, no options, just a stranger with a scar and a wagon and eyes that had seen too much. "What's your name?" she asked. "Sam. Sam Brennan. If you hurt my children, I'll kill you. I don't care how big you are or how many guns you've got. I'll find a way." Sam nodded. "Fair enough." He stepped forward and held out his arms. "Let me carry her. We need to move fast." Maggie hesitated. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to fight, to trust no one. But Rosie wasn't shivering. She placed her daughter in the stranger's arms. Sam's wagon was old, but solid, with a canvas cover that blocked the wind. He'd laid blankets in the back, thick wool military issue, and a pile of straw beneath them for insulation. "Get in," he said. "Both of you. There's a heated brick wrapped in flannel near the front. Put it against her chest." Maggie climbed in, pulling Daniel after her. She found the brick warm, almost hot, and pressed it to Rosie's body. The child whimpered. A good sign. Whimpering meant feeling. Feeling meant alive. "Hold on." Sam climbed onto the driver's seat, took the reins. "Road's rough. Keep her steady." The wagon lurched forward. Maggie braced herself against the sideboard, one arm around Rosie, the other around Daniel. The canvas flapped in the wind, but inside, sheltered by the blankets and the straw, the cold began to ease. "Mama." Daniel's voice was small. "Who is he?" "I don't know, baby." "Is he a good man?" Maggie watched Sam's back through the gap in the canvas. Straight, steady, not looking behind him. "I don't know that either, Chag." They rode in silence for 20 minutes. Then Rosie coughed. Maggie's heart leapt. "Rosie! Rosie, can you hear me?" The child's eyes fluttered open. Glassy, confused, but open. "Mama." "I'm here, baby. I'm right here." "Cold." "I know. You're gonna be warm soon, I promise." Rosie's hand crept out from under the blanket, searching. Daniel grabbed it, squeezed. "I got you, Rosie. I got you." The little girl's eyes drifted closed again, but her breathing was stronger now, deeper. Maggie pressed her forehead to her daughter's and let out a breath she'd been holding for hours. "She's tough," Sam called back, not turning. "Takes after her mama, I reckon." Maggie didn't answer, but something loosened in her chest. "How much farther?" Daniel asked. "1.5 miles. That's not very far." "No, it ain't." Daniel was quiet for a moment. Then, "Mr. Yeah. You really were a medic." "Yeah." "In the war." "Yeah." "Did you kill people?" Maggie opened her mouth to scold him, but Sam answered first. "Yeah, I did." "Did it bother you?" Silence. The wagon creaked. Wind howled outside the canvas. "Every single day," Sam said finally. "Still does." Daniel nodded, like that answer made sense to him. Like an 8-year-old could understand the weight of killing and guilt and years of regret. Maybe he could. He'd carried enough weight already. "My pa left us," Daniel said. 6 months ago. Went to California. Said he'd send money." "Did he?" "No." "I'm sorry." "I ain't." Daniel's voice hardened. "I'm glad he's gone. He made Mama cry. He drank all the time. He yelled at Rosie when she was loud. I hated him." "Daniel," Maggie started. "It's true, Mama. I hated him, and I'm glad he left." Maggie closed her eyes. What could she say? The boy was right. Franklin had been a charming disaster, a sweet-talking snake who'd promised her everything and delivered nothing but heartbreak and debt and 2 children who deserved better. "Hate's a heavy thing to carry," Sam said. "That's what Mama says." "Your Mama's smart. She's the smartest person I know. She can read and write and do numbers. She taught me how to spell my name." Sam glanced back. His eyes met Maggie's for just a moment. "She sounds remarkable," he said. Maggie looked away. Her cheeks burned, and she told herself it was the cold. The house appeared through the snow like a ghost, dark shape against darker sky smoke, curling from the chimney lamplight, glowing behind frosted windows. Sam pulled the wagon to a stop and jumped down. "Stay here. Let me get the door open. Get the fire built up." He disappeared into the darkness. Maggie heard the creak of a door, the thump of boots, the rattle of a stove grate. A minute later, light bloomed behind the windows, brighter, now warmer. Sam reappeared at the back of the wagon. "Give me the girl." Maggie hesitated again, that instinct still screaming. "Please," Sam said. His voice was soft, almost gentle. "Let me help." She handed Rosie over. Sam cradled the child against his chest and walked toward the house. Maggie climbed out of the wagon, helped Daniel down, and followed. The warmth hit her like a wall. She stumbled, caught herself on the doorframe, stood there blinking in the sudden heat. The house was small. One main room, with a kitchen area, a door that probably led to a bedroom, a cot near the fireplace where Sam was laying Rosie down. "Blankets in that chest." Sam pointed. "Get as many as you can. We need to warm her up slow. Too fast, and her heart might give out." Maggie moved, found the chest opened. It pulled out quilts and blankets, and a heavy wool coat that smelled of cedar and smoke. "Layer them," Sam instructed. "One at a time. Every few minutes add another." She did as he said. Daniel stood by the fire hands stretched toward the flames, tears streaming down his face. "She's gonna be okay, Mama. Tell me she's gonna be okay." "She's gonna be okay." Maggie said it like a prayer, like if she believed it hard enough, it would become true. Sam disappeared into the kitchen. She heard the clang of pots, the splash of water, the scrape of a match. A few minutes later, he returned with a steaming cup. "Broth," he said. "From this morning. It's warm, not hot. See if you can get her to drink." Maggie took the cup, held it to Rosie's lips. The child drank weak, slow sips, but she drank. "That's it, baby. That's my girl." Sam watched for a moment, then turned to Daniel. "You hungry son?" Daniel nodded, wiping his face with his sleeve. "There's stew on the stove. Bowls in the cabinet above the sink. Help yourself." Daniel looked at Maggie. She nodded. "Go ahead, baby. Eat something." The boy moved toward the kitchen, his steps unsteady. Maggie heard the clatter of bowls, the scrape of a ladle. A moment later, Daniel was shoveling stew into his mouth like he hadn't eaten in days. He hadn't. Not really. The last of their food had gone to Rosie 3 days ago, and before that, "When's the last time you ate?" Sam's voice made her jump. She turned to find him watching her. "I'm fine." "That ain't what I asked." The children needed when. Maggie looked away. 4 days, maybe 5. Sam was quiet. Then he walked to the kitchen, filled a bowl, and brought it back. "Eat." "I'm not hungry." "Ma'am." His voice was firm, but not unkind. "You ain't gonna be any good to those kids if you collapse. Eat the stew. That's not a request." She wanted to argue. She always wanted to argue. Franklin used to say that about her. That woman would argue with a fence post if it looked at her wrong. But the stew smelled so good, and she was so tired. She took the bowl. The first bite nearly made her cry. Beef potatoes, carrots, onions. Real food, hot and filling, and seasoned with something other than desperation. She ate slowly at first, then faster, unable to stop herself. Sam didn't watch her eat. He moved around the room instead, adding wood to the fire, adjusting blankets around Rosie, checking the windows for drafts, giving her privacy. When she finished, she set the bowl aside and looked at him. "Why are you doing this?" He was crouched by the fire poker in hand. He didn't turn. "Told you already." "You told me about your wife. That ain't an answer." "Ain't it?" "No." Sam set the poker down, stood, faced her. "I've been alone 7 years, he said. 7 years in this house talking to nobody but my horse. 7 years watching the snow fall and wondering if this was the winter I finally gave up. He paused. Couple weeks ago I rode into town for supplies. Saw you outside the boarding house. You were holding your girl trying to keep her warm while you talked to that Patterson woman. I saw her shut the door in your face. Maggie's throat tightened. You saw that? I saw a lot. Saw you try the church, saw you try the saloon, saw you keep going even when everyone told you no. He shook his head. I've known grown men who would have given up after the first door. You didn't. I couldn't. My children. Exactly. Sam's eyes held hers. Your children. You weren't fighting for yourself. You were fighting for them. And I thought... He stopped, swallowed. I thought maybe that's what I've been missing. Something worth fighting for. The fire crackled. Wind rattled the windows. I don't need saving, Maggie said quietly. I know. I'm not some damsel waiting for a hero. I know that too. Then what do you want? Sam was quiet for a long moment. I want to not be alone anymore, he said finally. That's all. Just not alone. Maggie looked at him. At the scar on his face, the gray in his hair, the weariness that hung on him like a coat. He was broken. She could see that. Broken in ways that might never fully heal. But so was she. Okay, she said. Okay. Okay, we'll stay. For now. Until Rosie's better, until I figure out what comes next. She straightened her shoulders. But I work for my keep. I'm not a charity case. Never thought you were. I can cook clean sew. I can keep books if you've got any. I can... Ma'am. Sam held up a hand. We can figure that out tomorrow. Tonight you need to rest. But... tomorrow. Maggie wanted to argue. The fence post, she thought, and almost smiled. Fine. Tomorrow. Sam nodded. Bedroom's through there. Bed's clean. I'll take the cot. I can't take your bed. You can and you will. Your girl needs you close, and the cot's too small for both of you. Maggie looked at Rosie sleeping now, her breathing steady, her cheeks slowly regaining color. Then at Daniel curled up in a chair by the fire bowl, empty in his lap, already drifting off. Let me move him, Sam said. He crossed to Daniel, scooped the boy up with surprising gentleness, and carried him to the cot. Daniel stirred but didn't wake. He's exhausted, Maggie said. He's been carrying too much. Kids shouldn't have to carry that much. There was something in his voice, something old and heavy. You sound like you know. Sam tucked a blanket around Daniel. My brother died when I was 12. Our pa was gone. Our ma was sick. I had to do everything. He straightened. Grew up fast after that. I'm sorry. It was a long time ago. He turned to face her. Get some sleep, Mrs. Sinclair. Maggie Sinclair. Get some sleep, Mrs. Sinclair. We've got a lot to figure out in the morning. He walked to the fire and settled into the chair Daniel had vacated. Picked up a book from the side table, worn leather-bound spine, cracked from use. Maggie watched him for a moment. Then she gathered Rosie in her arms, carried her to the bedroom, and laid her on the bed. The sheets were clean, the quilts thick. The pillow smelled like soap and pine. She climbed in beside her daughter, pulled the blankets up, and listened to the wind howl outside. In the other room, she could hear Sam turning pages. The creak of his chair, the soft pop of the fire. She should have been afraid. A stranger's house, a stranger's bed, a stranger in the next room with a rifle and a past he'd barely begun to reveal. But she wasn't afraid. For the first time in 6 months, Maggie Sinclair felt something she'd forgotten existed. Safe. She closed her eyes and let the warmth take her. Rosie woke her just before dawn. Mama? Maggie jerked upright. What is it, baby? What's wrong? Rosie's eyes were clear. Still tired, still weak, but clear. I'm hungry. Maggie laughed. It came out choked, halfway to a sob. You're hungry. Yes, ma'am. Oh, baby. Maggie pulled her daughter close, pressed her lips to the child's forehead. Cool. Not cold, cool. Normal. Let's go find you something to eat. She carried Rosie into the main room. Sam was already up, standing at the stove, stirring something in a pot. He turned when he heard them. "Morning." "Morning." His eyes went to Rosie. "How's she feeling?" "Hungry." Something flickered across Sam's face. Relief, maybe. Or something deeper. "That's good," he said. "That's real good." Daniel was still asleep on the cot, his face peaceful. Maggie set Rosie in the chair by the fire and tucked a blanket around her. "You stay here, baby. I'm gonna help Mr. Brennan with breakfast." "Sam," he said. "Just Sam." "Shay." Maggie nodded. "Sam." She walked to the stove, stood beside him. He was making oatmeal, thick, creamy, with a drizzle of molasses. "You didn't have to get up early," she said. "Couldn't sleep." He kept stirring. Kept checking on the girl. Wanted to make sure her fever didn't come back. "You checked on her." "Every hour." Maggie stared at him. "You stayed up all night." "Told you, I was a medic. Old habits." She didn't know what to say. This man, this stranger, had given them shelter, food, warmth. Had sat up all night watching over her daughter while she slept. Franklin wouldn't have done that. Franklin had barely looked at their children when they were sick. Too much trouble, he'd say. Let him cry it out. "Thank you," she said. The words felt inadequate. I can't." "You don't have to say anything." Sam lifted the pot from the stove. "Let's just eat." They ate together at the small wooden table. Daniel woke up halfway through, stumbled over, and inhaled 3 bowls of oatmeal without pausing for breath. Rosie managed half a bowl before her eyes started drooping again. "She needs more rest," Sam said. "A few days at least, maybe a week." "A week." Maggie's stomach tightened. "We can't impose." "It ain't imposing if I'm offering." "But, ma'am." Sam set down his spoon. "Maggie, your girl almost died last night. She needs time to recover. You need time to figure out your next move. I've got room, I've got food, and He stopped, started again. "I could use the company. Stay as long as you need." Maggie looked at her children. Daniel was scraping the last of the oatmeal from his bowl, his face fuller already, his eyes brighter. Rosie was dozing in her chair, a half smile on her lips. They were warm. They were fed. They were safe. For the first time in months, they were actually safe. "Okay," she said. "We'll stay. For a little while." Sam nodded. "Good." He stood and started clearing the dishes. Maggie watched him work. Watched his hands, big, rough, capable, moving with quiet efficiency. Watched the way he moved around the kitchen, knowing exactly where everything was. Watched the way he glanced at her children when he thought she wasn't looking, his expression soft, almost tender. This man had been alone for 7 years. 7 years of silence and solitude and empty rooms. And he'd opened his door to strangers. She didn't understand it, didn't trust it. Had learned the hard way that kindness always came with a price. But maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. She stood and picked up her bowl. "Let me help," she said. Sam looked at her. Something passed between them. Not words, not even understanding, just a recognition. 2 broken people trying to find their way. "All right," he said. "I'll wash you dry." They worked side by side, the fire crackling behind them, the children sleeping, the snow falling soft and quiet outside. And for the first time in longer than she could remember, Maggie Sinclair didn't feel like she was drowning. She felt like she was finally coming up for air. The first week passed like water through cupped hands, slow when she tried to hold it, gone before she realized. Maggie woke each morning before dawn, habit carved deep by years of struggle. She'd lie still for a moment, listening to Rosie's breathing beside her, waiting for the panic to hit. The where are we, the what do we do, the how will we survive. But it didn't come. Instead, she heard the creak of floorboards in the other room, the clang of the stove grate, the soft whistle of a kettle coming to boil. Sam was already up. On the 4th morning, she found him in the kitchen, sleeves rolled to his elbows, kneading dough on the wooden counter. "You bake?" she asked. He glanced up. "Badly. But bread's bread." "Let me." You don't have to. I want to. She stepped beside him, took over the dough. Her hands remembered what to do. Press, fold, turn. Press, fold, turn. The rhythm of it steadied something inside her. Sam watched for a moment, then stepped back. You're good at that. My mother taught me. Said a woman who can't bake ain't worth marrying. Sounds like a hard woman. She was. Maggie's hands paused. She was also right about most things. I just didn't realize it until she was gone. Sam was quiet. Then he said, I'll go check on the animals. He pulled on his coat and stepped outside. Cold air rushed in, then vanished as the door closed behind him. Maggie kept kneading. She'd been watching him these past few days. Couldn't help it. He moved through his house like a man who'd memorized every inch of it, reaching for things without looking, stepping around furniture in the dark. But there was something else, too. A carefulness. Like he was trying not to take up too much space. Strange for a man in his own home. Mama? She turned. Daniel stood in the doorway, hair mussed, eyes heavy with sleep. Morning, baby. You hungry? Always. She smiled. Set the table. Breakfast will be ready soon. Daniel moved to the cabinet, pulled out plates and cups. He'd learned where everything was by the second day, learned it faster than she had. Kids adapted. That's what they did. Mama? Yeah. I like it here. Maggie's hands stilled on the dough. Do you? Yeah. Daniel set the plates down one by one. It's warm. And there's food. And Mr. Sam? He stopped. He's nice. He doesn't yell. Maggie felt something crack in her chest. No, she said quietly. He doesn't yell. Pa used to yell all the time. I know, baby. I don't miss him. Maggie turned to look at her son. 8 years old, shoulders squared, chin lifted, trying so hard to be a man. That's okay, she said. You don't have to miss him. Do you? The question hit her harder than she expected. Did she miss Franklin? She'd loved him once, or thought she had. He'd been handsome, charming, full of dreams and promises. He'd made her feel special, made her feel chosen. Then the dreams turned to dust, and the promises turned to lies, and the charming man turned into someone who drank too much, and gambled more, and looked at his own children like they were burdens. No, she said. I don't miss him. Daniel nodded, satisfied. The back door opened, and Sam came in, stomping snow off his boots. His cheeks were red from the cold, his breath still visible. Temperature's dropping, he said. Storm coming maybe tonight. Bad one. Hard to tell. Could be nothing. Could be a few days. Maggie looked at the dough in her hands. A few days. A few more days in this warm house, with this quiet man pretending this life was hers. I'll make extra bread, she said. Sam nodded. I'll bring in more wood. They moved around each other, not touching, not speaking, but something passed between them anyway. An understanding. A rhythm. Like they'd been doing this for years. Rosie woke an hour later, her fever fully broken, her appetite returned with a vengeance. She ate 3 biscuits and a bowl of oatmeal and asked for more. Slow down, baby. Maggie laughed. You'll make yourself sick. But I'm hungry. You're always hungry. Because I'm growing. Rosie puffed out her chest. Mr. Sam said so. He said I'm going to be tall like Mama. Maggie glanced at Sam, who was pretending to read a book by the fire. Did he now? Uh-huh. And he said Daniel's going to be strong like a horse. And he said... Rosie stopped suddenly, shy. What else did he say? Rosie mumbled something into her oatmeal. What was that? He said we could stay as long as we want. The room went quiet. Maggie looked at Sam. He'd lowered the book, his eyes meeting hers. I didn't mean to overstep, he said. She asked how long we were staying and I just... It's fine. I should have talked to you first. Sam. Maggie's voice was firm, but not angry. It's fine. He nodded, uncertain. Then he lifted his book again, but she could tell he wasn't reading. Rosie tugged on Maggie's sleeve. Can we, Mama? Can we stay? Maggie looked at her daughter. At those big brown eyes, still shadowed from the fever, but bright with hope. At the color returning to her cheeks, the strength returning to her voice. A week ago, this child had been dying in her arms. Now, she was asking about the future. "We'll see," Maggie said. "For now, finish your breakfast." Rosie grinned and attacked her oatmeal with renewed vigor. Maggie stood and started clearing the dishes. Sam rose to help, but she waved him off. "I've got it. You did the cooking. You did the bread. And you did everything else." She stacked the bowls, carried them to the basin. "Sit. Rest. You've earned it." Sam hesitated, then sank back into his chair. Maggie washed the dishes, listening to the sounds of the house. Rosie chattering to Daniel about the snow. Daniel pretending to be annoyed but answering every question. The fire crackling, the wind picking up outside Sam's chair, creaking as he shifted. Normal sounds. Family sounds. She'd almost forgotten what they felt like. "Mama." Daniel appeared at her elbow. "Can I go outside?" "It's cold." "I'll wear my coat." "You don't have a coat, baby, not a proper one." Daniel's face fell. "Here." Sam stood cross to a chest by the door and pulled out a heavy wool jacket. "It was mine when I was a boy. Might be a little big, but it'll keep you warm." Daniel stared at the coat like it was made of gold. "I can't." "Take it." Sam held it out. "It's just sitting here. Might as well get used." Daniel looked at Maggie. She nodded. The boy grabbed the coat, shrugged it on. It was too big. The sleeves hung past his hands. The hem nearly reached his knees, but his grin was so wide it hurt to look at. "Thank you, Mr. Sam." Just Sam. "Thank you, Sam." He bolted for the door, Rosie scrambling after him. Me too. "Rosie, you're not well enough," Maggie started. "Just for a minute, Mama, please." Maggie hesitated. But the color in Rosie's cheeks was real now, not fever flush, and her eyes were bright with excitement rather than illness. 10 minutes, she said. "And stay where I can see you from the window." Both children vanished out the door. A moment later, their laughter drifted back muffled by glass and wind. Maggie stood at the window watching them. Daniel was showing Rosie how to make a snowball. The little girl's throws went wide, but she shrieked with delight every time. "They're good kids." Sam's voice came from behind her. She hadn't heard him approach. "They are." "You raised them right." Maggie shook her head. "I did what I could. Most days it didn't feel like enough." "That's how you know you're doing it right." Sam came to stand beside her, close, but not touching. "The ones who think they're doing enough, those are the ones to worry about." Maggie glanced at him. "You sound like you know something about raising kids." "Not much, but I know something about trying." He paused. "And failing." "You failed at something. Plenty of things." "Like what?" Sam was quiet for a long moment. Outside, Daniel tackled Rosie into a snowbank. Her squeals echoed through the glass. "I had a brother," Sam said finally. "Younger than me by 4 years. Jacob. He was..." A pause. "He was the good one. The kind one. Everyone loved him." "What happened?" "War happened. He wanted to enlist. I told him not to. Told him he was too young, too soft. Told him he'd get himself killed." Maggie's breath caught. "Did he listen?" "He listened. Stayed home, took care of our ma." Sam's jaw tightened. "I went instead. Thought I was protecting him." "Weren't you?" "I was gone 2 years. When I came back..." He stopped. Swallowed. "The farm was burned. Ma was dead. And Jacob..." He didn't finish. Maggie reached out without thinking. Her hand found his arm rested there. "Sam!" "Bushwhackers," he said. "Came through while I was gone. Jacob tried to fight them off. He was 17. It wasn't your fault. I know that. Up here." He tapped his temple. "But here..." His hand moved to his chest. "Here doesn't listen." They stood in silence, watching the children play. Maggie's hand was still on his arm. She could feel the warmth of him through the fabric, the tension in his muscles. "I lost a baby," she said. Sam turned to look at her. Before Rosie, a little girl. She was born too early, too small. Lived 3 days. Maggie's voice didn't waver, but something inside her was shaking. I named her Grace. Franklin said it was foolish to name something that wasn't going to last. He was wrong. I know. But at the time, she shook her head. At the time I believed him. I believed everything he said. That's the part I can't forgive myself for. You were young. I was stupid. Those aren't the same thing. Maggie looked at him, really looked. At the lines around his eyes, the gray in his hair, the scar that told a story she hadn't heard yet. How old are you? She asked. 38. You, 32. You look younger. I feel older. Sam almost smiled. Know the feeling. Outside, Daniel was helping Rosie build something, a snow fort maybe, or a very lopsided snowman. Their breath puffed white in the cold air, their laughter rising and falling like music. They deserve better than what I've given them, Maggie said. You kept them alive. Barely. Barely counts. Sam's voice was firm. Barely is enough. You got them through yesterday, and you'll get them through tomorrow. That's all anyone can do. Maggie felt tears prick her eyes. She blinked them back. You're a strange man, Sam Brennan. So I've been told. You take in strangers. You give away your clothes. You say kind things to women you barely know. That make me strange. In my experience, yes. Sam turned to face her fully. His gray eyes were steady calm. Then maybe you've been knowing the wrong people. Maggie couldn't argue with that. The storm hit that night. It came in howling, rattling the windows, piling snow against the doors. Sam had brought in enough wood to last a week, and the fire roared high, keeping the cold at bay. The children slept through it, Rosie curled against Maggie Daniel on the cot by the hearth. But Maggie lay awake, listening to the wind scream, feeling the house shudder. She thought about the back steps of Harrison's store, about what would have happened if Sam hadn't come. She already knew the answer. Around midnight she heard movement in the main room. Soft footsteps, the creak of a chair. She slipped out of bed, careful not to wake Rosie, and padded to the doorway. Sam sat by the fire, staring into the flames. He wasn't reading, wasn't doing anything, just sitting. His face was drawn, his eyes distant. Can't sleep? She asked. He didn't startle. Just turned his head slowly, like he'd known she was there. Never could during storms. Too much noise. The wind. The memories. Maggie crossed to the chair opposite him and sat down. You want to talk about it? No. Okay. They sat in silence, the fire crackling between them. Outside, the wind howled and raged. Inside, the warmth held. I dream about them, Sam said suddenly. Ruth, Jacob, my ma. They come to me at night and they... He stopped. They ask me why I'm still here, why I got to live when they didn't. What do you tell them? I don't know. I never know. His hands clenched on his knees. I wake up before I can answer. Maggie thought about her own dreams. About Grace small and blue and silent. About Franklin walking away through the dust, never looking back. About the back steps, the snow the moment she'd thought it was over. Maybe there isn't an answer, she said. Sam looked at her. Maybe that's not the question they're asking. What do you mean? Maggie leaned forward. Maybe they're not asking why you lived. Maybe they're asking what you're going to do with it. Sam was quiet for a long moment. And if I don't know, then you figure it out, one day at a time. She paused. That's what I'm doing. Is it working? Maggie thought about the warm bed behind her, the children sleeping safe, the food in her belly, and the roof over her head. Ask me again in a month. Sam almost smiled. Fair enough. The fire popped, sending sparks up the chimney. Wind rattled the windows. You should sleep, Sam said. Storm will last at least another day. Plenty of time to talk tomorrow. What about you? I'll keep the fire going. Maggie stood. Then she stopped. Sam. Yeah. Thank you. For... She gestured vaguely. For all of this. You don't have to keep thanking me. I know, but I want to. She paused. Nobody's ever... The word stuck in her throat. Nobody's ever just helped, without wanting something back. Sam's eyes met hers. In the firelight, they looked almost warm. Maybe nobody ever could, he said. Or maybe you just never let them. Maggie didn't have an answer for that. She went back to bed. The storm lasted 3 days. 3 days of howling wind and piling snow, and a world reduced to 4 walls and 5 people. 3 days of meals cooked together, and stories told by firelight, and children's laughter echoing through rooms that had been silent for too long. Daniel found Sam's old chess set on the 2nd day, and Sam taught him to play. The boy lost 11 games in a row, but kept coming back, his forehead creased with concentration. You're getting better, Sam said after the 12th loss. I'm still losing. Losing's how you learn. Winning just teaches you to keep doing what you're doing. Losing. Sam reset the pieces. Losing teaches you to change. Daniel chewed his lip. Pa said losing was for weaklings. Your pa was wrong about a lot of things. Daniel looked up, surprised by the bluntness. Yes, sir, he was. On the 3rd day, Rosie decided she was well enough to help with chores. She followed Sam around like a shadow, asking questions about everything: the chickens, the horses, the tools in the barn. What's that? A hoof pick. What's it for? Cleaning horses' hooves. Why do they need cleaning? Because they step in things. What things? All kinds of things. Like what? Maggie tried to intervene, but Sam waved her off. She's curious. That's good. She's exhausting. That's also good. He glanced at Rosie, who was now examining a bridle with intense fascination. Means she's feeling better. He was right. The fever was gone. The cough was fading, and the child who'd been limp and gray in Maggie's arms a week ago was now bouncing around the house like a small tornado. Sam. Rosie tugged his sleeve. Can I ride the horse? Not today, little one. Too much snow. Tomorrow? Maybe, if your mama says it's okay. Rosie spun around. Mama, Sam said I can ride the horse. He said maybe. Maybe means yes. Maybe means maybe. Rosie pouted, but only for a moment. Then she spotted a barn cat slinking through the doorway and took off after it. Sam watched her go, something soft in his expression. She reminds me of someone, he said. Who? My brother. When he was small. Sam picked up the bridle Rosie had been examining. Same energy, same curiosity, same way of thinking maybe means yes. Maggie smiled. It's a gift. Or a curse. Depends on who's on the receiving end. Sam laughed. It was a small sound, rusty from disuse but real. Maggie realized it was the first time she'd heard him laugh. The storm broke on the 4th morning. Maggie woke to silence, real silence, not the muffled roar of wind against walls. She slipped out of bed and went to the window. The world was white. White ground, white trees, white sky slowly brightening toward dawn. The snow lay in deep drifts against the barn, and the fence posts smooth and unmarked. Beautiful. She'd forgotten the world could be beautiful. Morning. She turned. Sam stood in the doorway, 2 cups of coffee in his hands. He held one out to her. Storm's past. I noticed. She took the cup, wrapped her hands around its warmth. It's quiet. Too quiet. Means more snow coming, probably. But we've got a day or two before it hits. What do we do with a day or two? Sam sipped his coffee. I need to check the fences. See what the storm took down. Could use some help if you're willing. The children? Daniel can watch Rosie. He's been doing it his whole life anyway. It was true. Daniel had been Rosie's protector since the day she was born, changing diapers, heating bottles, keeping her quiet when Franklin was in one of his moods. 8 years old, and already more of a parent than his father had ever been. All right, Maggie said. Let me get dressed. They set out an hour later, wrapped in coats and scarves, boots crunching through the snow. The cold bit at Maggie's cheeks, but after 4 days inside, the fresh air felt like freedom. Sam moved ahead, breaking a path through the drifts. His limp was more pronounced in the deep snow, but he didn't slow down. "You were shot," Maggie said. He glanced back. "What?" "Your leg. You were shot." Sam turned forward again. "Gettysburg. Minier ball. Docs wanted to take the leg, but I wouldn't let them." "Why not?" "Because I'd already lost enough." They walked in silence for a while. The fence came into view, or what was left of it. 3 posts had snapped, and a long section of wire lay tangled in the snow. "Damn," Sam muttered. "Can we fix it?" "We can try." They worked side by side, digging out the broken posts, measuring new ones from a stack Sam had cut last fall. Maggie held the posts steady, while Sam hammered them in, then helped stretch the wire between them. Her hands ached with cold. Her shoulders burned from the effort. But there was something satisfying about the work, something real and tangible. A problem she could solve with her own 2 hands. "You're stronger than you look," Sam said. "I'll take that as a compliment." It was meant as one. They finished the fence by midday and stood back to survey their work. Not pretty, but solid. It would hold. "Thank you," Sam said. "For what?" "For helping. For—" He gestured at the fence, the snow, the sky. "For all of it. You're the one helping us?" "Am I?" Sam looked at her. "I've been alone 7 years, Maggie. 7 years of talking to myself, eating alone, waking up in an empty house." "You think that's living?" Maggie didn't answer. "You and those kids?" Sam shook his head. "You've been here a week. 1 week. And I've laughed more, talked more, felt more than I have in years. So don't tell me I'm the one helping." Maggie felt her chest tighten. "Sam." "I'm not asking for anything," he said quickly. "I know you've got plans. I know this is temporary. I'm just saying." He stopped, took a breath. "I'm just saying thank you for reminding me what it feels like to not be alone." Maggie looked at this man, this scarred, limping, broken man who'd pulled her from the snow and asked for nothing in return. Who'd sat up all night watching her daughter breathe. Who'd given her son a coat, and her daughter hope, and her a reason to believe that maybe, just maybe, not all men were like Franklin. "It's not temporary," she said. Sam blinked. "What?" "This. Us. Whatever this is." She stepped closer. "You asked me to stay. I'm staying." "Maggie, unless you've changed your mind." "No. God, no." Sam's voice was rough. I don't want you to feel obligated. You don't owe me." "This isn't about owing." Maggie reached out, took his hand. His fingers were cold, rough with calluses. "This is about choosing. I'm choosing to stay. Me. Not because I have to, but because I want to." Sam stared at her. His gray eyes were bright, too bright. "You sure?" "I'm sure. Because once I let myself believe this—" His voice cracked. "I don't think I can go back." Maggie squeezed his hand. "Then don't." They stood there in the snow, 2 broken people holding on to each other, the wind picking up around them and the clouds rolling in from the west. Another storm was coming, but this time they'd face it together. 2 weeks passed, and Maggie learned the shape of happiness. It came in small things. The way Daniel's laughter echoed through the house when Sam taught him to whittle. The way Rosie sang made-up songs while she fed the chickens. The way Sam looked at her across the breakfast table. His gray eyes soft, a half smile on his lips. She learned Sam's rhythms, too. He rose before dawn always, and made coffee strong enough to strip paint. He read in the evenings by the fire, moving his lips slightly over difficult words. He hummed when he worked old hymns, mostly songs she remembered from childhood. And he watched her. Not in a hungry way, not in a possessive way. just watched, like he couldn't quite believe she was real. "You're staring," she said one morning. Sam blinked. "Sorry." "Don't be sorry. Just tell me why." He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I keep thinking I'm gonna wake up, that this is all a dream, and I'll open my eyes and the house will be empty again." "It's not a dream." "I know. But—" He shrugged. 7 years is a long time. Takes a while to trust that something good can last. Maggie understood. She woke some nights in a cold sweat heart pounding, certain she was back on those steps with the snow falling and her daughter dying in her arms, certain that none of this was real. But then she'd hear Daniel snoring in the cot, or feel Rosie's warm body beside her, or catch the scent of cedar smoke from the fire, and she'd remember. She was safe. They were safe. For now. The thought crept in unbidden, and she pushed it away. "Sam!" Daniel's voice came from the barn. "Sam, come quick!" They both moved at once, Maggie grabbing her shawl, Sam reaching for his coat. They found Daniel kneeling in the hay beside the old mare, his face alight with wonder. "Look!" A foal lay in the straw, wet and trembling, its legs too long for its body. The mare was licking it clean, making soft sounds in her throat. "When did this happen?" Maggie breathed. "Just now. I came to feed her and she was lying down, and then—" Daniel's eyes were huge. "I saw it, Mama. I saw the baby come out." Sam knelt beside the boy, examining the foal with practiced hands. "Healthy," he said. "Good size, strong legs." "Can I name him?" Daniel asked. "It's a her, and yes, you can name her." Daniel thought hard, his forehead creased. "Hope," he said finally. "I want to call her Hope." Maggie felt her throat tighten. "That's a good name," Sam said quietly. "That's a real good name." They stayed in the barn for an hour, watching the foal struggle to her feet, collapse, try again. Each time she fell, Daniel made a small sound of distress. Each time she rose, he cheered. "She's not giving up," he said. "No," Sam agreed. "She's not. Is that what you do? When things are hard, you just keep trying." Sam was quiet for a moment. Then he put his hand on Daniel's shoulder. "That's exactly what you do. You fall, you get up. You fall again, you get up again. And one day—" He nodded toward the foal, who was now standing steady, nosing at her mother. "One day you're standing." Daniel leaned into Sam's side just slightly. A small gesture, barely noticeable, but Maggie noticed. And so did Sam. That night, after the children were asleep, Maggie found Sam on the porch, staring out at the snow. "Cold out here," she said. "Yeah." "Then why are you here?" Sam didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was rough. "Daniel called me Sam today." "He's been calling you Sam for a week." "No, I mean—" He stopped, started again. "He leaned on me, in the barn, like I was—" Another pause. "Like I was someone he trusted." Maggie stepped closer. "You are." "I'm a stranger." "You were a stranger. You're not anymore." Sam turned to look at her. In the moonlight, his face was all shadows and angles. "What am I then?" Maggie thought about it. About the way he made breakfast every morning without being asked. About the way he taught Daniel chess and Rosie songs, and her how to laugh again. About the way he looked at her like she was something precious. "Family," she said. Sam's breath caught. "You don't have to say that." "I know." "You don't owe me—" "I know that too." She took another step close enough to touch. "I'm saying it because it's true. You're family, Sam. You have been since the night you pulled us out of that snow." Sam's hand came up slowly and cupped her cheek. His palm was warm, rough with calluses. "Maggie." "Yeah, I'm going to kiss you now, unless you don't want me to." Her heart was pounding. "I want you to." He kissed her. It was soft at first, tentative. A question. Then she answered, leaning into him, and it became something deeper. Something hungry and honest and real. When they finally pulled apart, Sam rested his forehead against hers. I've been wanting to do that since the first night, he admitted. Why didn't you? Because you needed saving, not courting. Maggie laughed a small, breathless sound. And now? Now you don't need saving anymore. He pulled back enough to look at her. So maybe now, if you want, I could court you proper. What does proper look like? I don't know. Never done it before. He smiled, that rare smile that transformed his whole face. Ruth's father arranged our marriage. This is new. Then we'll figure it out together. Sam kissed her again, softer this time. Together, he agreed. They stood on the porch until the cold drove them inside, holding hands like teenagers, not speaking, but not needing to. Some things didn't need words. The next week brought more firsts. First time Sam held her hand in front of the children. First time Daniel called him Sam without hesitation. First time Rosie climbed into his lap and fell asleep there, trusting as a kitten. First time Maggie let herself imagine a future. You're smiling again, Sam said one evening. Am I? You are. You do it more now. I have reasons to smile now. Sam pulled her close, pressed a kiss to her hair. I'm glad. The fire crackled. Daniel was teaching Rosie chess, or trying to. She kept moving the pieces wherever she wanted, insisting that was how queens worked. Sam, Rosie looked up suddenly. Are you going to be our new papa? The room went quiet. Maggie felt Sam tense beside her. Daniel's face had gone carefully blank. Rosie, Maggie started. I just want to know. Rosie's voice was matter-of-fact. Because my old papa left, and you're here now, and you act like a papa. So are you. Sam looked at Maggie. She could see the question in his eyes. Help me, what do I say? But this wasn't her question to answer. What do you think, Daniel? Sam asked quietly. Daniel's jaw tightened. Why are you asking me? Because you're the man of your family. Your opinion matters. Something flickered across Daniel's face. Surprise, maybe, or something deeper. My pa... Daniel stopped, swallowed. My pa never asked what I thought. About anything. I'm not your pa. I know. Daniel's eyes met Sam's. That's why I'm glad. The words hung in the air. I don't want to replace your father, Sam said carefully. No one can do that. But I'd like, if you're willing, I'd like to be here. For you and your sister. For your ma. For how long? As long as you'll have me. Daniel was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Okay. Okay. Yeah, okay. A pause. But if you hurt my ma, I'll kill you. Sam didn't laugh. He met the boy's eyes with absolute seriousness. If I hurt your ma, I'll let you. Daniel held his gaze for another beat. Then, for the first time in weeks, he smiled. Okay, Sam. Rosie bounced up and down. Does that mean yes? Are you our papa now? I think. Sam looked at Maggie. I think that's up to your mama. Maggie felt tears threatening. She blinked them back. I think, she said, that we're a family, whatever that looks like. Rosie cheered. Daniel ducked his head, hiding a grin, and Sam. Sam pulled Maggie close and held on like he'd never let go. Family, he said quietly. I like the sound of that. 3 days later, everything shattered. It started with the sound of hoofbeats. Maggie was in the kitchen kneading bread when she heard them. Fast, urgent, coming up the road. Her hands froze. Sam? He was already moving, reaching for the rifle above the door. Stay inside. Keep the children away from the windows. Sam, what? Just do it. He stepped onto the porch, rifle ready. Maggie pulled Daniel and Rosie behind her, her heart pounding. Through the window, she saw a rider approaching. A man on a bay horse riding hard coat flapping behind him. Her blood turned to ice. She knew that coat, knew that horse, knew the way he sat in the saddle, loose and careless, like the world owed him something. No, she breathed. No, no, no. Mama. Daniel's voice was tight. Mama, who is that? The rider pulled up in front of the house, swung down from the saddle, looked up at Sam with a smile that made Maggie want to scream. Well, well, Franklin Sinclair said. This is a nice place you've got here. Sam didn't lower the rifle. Who are you? Name's Franklin. Franklin Sinclair. The smile widened. I'm looking for my wife. Maggie felt the floor tilt beneath her. Your wife isn't here, Sam said. No. Franklin stepped forward. Sam's finger moved to the trigger. See, that's funny, because I've been tracking her for 2 weeks, and every trail leads right here. You heard wrong. Did I? Franklin's eyes moved past Sam toward the window, toward Maggie. Hey there, sweetheart. Miss me? Daniel made a sound low animal. Maggie grabbed his arm. Don't. But Mama. Don't. Sam hadn't moved. You need to leave. Can't do that. See, those are my kids in there, and that's my wife. And where I come from, a man has a right to his family. You gave up that right when you abandoned them. Franklin's smile flickered. I didn't abandon nobody. I went to find work. 6 months, Sam said. No word, no money. They were starving when I found them. Your daughter was dying. Well, she ain't dead, is she? So no harm done. Maggie felt rage rising in her chest, hot and choking. 6 months of terror, 6 months of hunger, 6 months of watching her children waste away, and he stood there smiling like none of it mattered. Get off my land, Sam said. Your land. Funny I don't see a wedding ring on my wife's finger. Franklin's eyes narrowed. Unless, oh, I see. You've been keeping her warm, haven't you? Keeping her real warm while her husband was gone. That's enough. Is it? Franklin took another step. See, I think I'm just getting started. I think I'm going to walk into that house and collect my family. And I think you're going to let me because if you don't... He patted his hip where a pistol hung. Things are gonna get ugly. The door opened. Maggie stepped onto the porch. Maggie, get back inside. Sam started. No. She walked past him down the steps until she stood face to face with the man she'd married. The man who'd promised her the world and given her nothing but pain. Hello, Franklin. His smile turned oily. There she is, my beautiful wife. I'm not your wife anymore. Law says different. The law doesn't know what you did. The law doesn't know you left us to die. I left to find work. You left because you were a coward. Maggie's voice was steady now, cold. You left because the baby died and the crops failed and things got hard. You left because that's what you always do. When something isn't easy, you run. Franklin's face darkened. Watch your mouth, woman. Or what you'll hit me again. Silence. Sam's rifle came up. You hit her. She was hysterical. I was calming her down. By hitting her. A man's got a right to discipline his wife. Not anymore. Sam's voice was ice. Not here, not ever again. Franklin laughed, but there was something nervous in it now. You think you can just take another man's family? You think that's how this works? I think, Sam said slowly, that you're going to get back on that horse. You're going to ride away, and you're never going to come back. And if I don't, then I'm going to put a bullet in your leg, then one in your other leg, then I'm going to leave you in the snow and let the wolves finish what I started. Franklin's smile vanished. You wouldn't dare. Try me. The two men stared at each other. The air crackled with tension. Then Rosie's voice came from the doorway. Mama, is that Papa? Franklin's head snapped toward the sound. His face changed, softened somehow, became the charming mask Maggie remembered from their courting days. Hey there, sweetheart. You remember your Papa? Rosie pressed against the doorframe, half hidden. You went away. I know, baby. I had to, but I'm back now. He held out his arms. Come give your Papa a hug. Rosie didn't move. Mama says you're not coming back. Your mama was wrong. Mama's never wrong. Something flickered across Franklin's face. Frustration, maybe, or anger. "Rosie, come here." "No. I said come here." "I don't want to." Franklin took a step toward the porch. Sam moved to block him. "Don't. She's my daughter." "She said no. That means no. She's 5 years old. And she's smarter than you already." Sam's voice was deadly quiet. "She knows what you are. They both do. You can't charm your way back into their lives, not this time." Franklin's mask slipped. The charming smile became something ugly. "This isn't over." "Yes, it is. You think you can just steal my family? You think there won't be consequences?" "I think," Sam said, "that you have about 30 seconds to get on that horse before I stop being polite." Franklin looked at Maggie, at the children in the doorway, at Sam Rifle's steady eyes cold. Then he laughed. "Fine, fine, keep them. Keep the nagging wife and the whiny kids and this godforsaken piece of dirt." He swung up onto his horse. "But don't think this is over. I've got rights. I've got the law on my side. The law won't help you here. We'll see about that." He wheeled his horse around, kicked it into a gallop, and disappeared down the road. The silence that followed was deafening. Rosie ran to Maggie, threw her arms around her waist. "I don't like him, Mama. I don't like him at all." "I know, baby. It's okay." "Is he coming back?" Maggie looked at Sam. His jaw was tight, his knuckles white on the rifle. "I don't know," she admitted. "I don't know." That night, no one slept. Sam sat by the window rifle across his knees, watching the road. Maggie lay in bed with both children pressed against her, their breathing uneven, their bodies tense. Around midnight, she gave up pretending and went to sit beside him. "He'll be back," she said. "I know." "He won't give up. That's not who he is. He'll go to town, find a lawyer, make trouble." "I know." "Sam," her voice broke. "Maybe we should go. Take the children, head west." "No." Sam's voice was firm. "I'm not running. Not from him. Not from anyone. But if he comes back with the law, then we'll face it." He turned to look at her. "Together, like we said." Maggie felt tears sliding down her cheeks. "I brought this on you. I brought him into your life. You brought life into my life." Sam reached out, wiped her tears with his thumb. "You brought laughter. You brought warmth. You brought 2 kids who call me Sam, and a woman who sees me when she looks at me. You think I'm going to give that up because some coward made threats? He's dangerous. So am I." The words hung in the air. "I was a soldier, Maggie. I've faced worse than Franklin Sinclair. I've faced cannon fire and bayonets and men who wanted to kill me for the uniform I wore." Sam's eyes were steady. "I survived all of it, and I'll survive this." "You could get hurt. So could you. So could those kids." He took her hand. "But running won't help. Running just means he wins, and I absolutely refuse to let a man like that win." Maggie looked at this man she'd stumbled into, this broken, stubborn, gentle man who'd given her everything and asked for nothing. "What do we do?" "Tomorrow I ride into town. I talk to the sheriff. I find out what rights Franklin actually has and how we fight them." "And tonight?" Sam pulled her close, tucked her head under his chin. "Tonight we wait. And we pray." Maggie closed her eyes. She'd stopped praying months ago, stopped believing anyone was listening. But with Sam's arms around her and her children sleeping in the next room, she tried. "Please," she whispered silently, "please let us keep this. Please let us be a family. Please don't let him take this away." Outside, the wind picked up. Snow began to fall. And somewhere in the darkness, Franklin Sinclair was planning his next move. Sam left before dawn. Maggie watched him saddle the horse, her arms wrapped tight around herself. The cold bit through her shawl, but she didn't move. "I'll be back before dark," he said. "And if you're not, then I'm not. But I will be." He crossed to her, tilted her chin up, kissed her forehead. "Keep the rifle by the door. Don't open it for anyone you don't know." "Sam, I mean it, Maggie. Anyone. She nodded. Her throat was too tight for words. Sam mounted his horse, looked down at her one last time. This is our home, he said. I'm going to make sure it stays that way. Then he was gone, swallowed by the gray morning light. Maggie stood on the porch until she couldn't hear the hoofbeats anymore. Then she went inside, bolted the door, and picked up the rifle. The morning passed slowly. Daniel helped her with chores, his face tight with worry. Rosie sensed the tension and stayed close, asking no questions, but watching everything with those big brown eyes. Mama, she said around noon, is Sam coming back? Yes, baby. Promise. Maggie hesitated. She'd made promises before, promises that broke, promises that turned to ash in her mouth. But Rosie was 5 years old and terrified, and some lies were kinder than the truth. I promise. The afternoon dragged on. Maggie tried to keep busy mending clothes, preparing dinner, tidying rooms that didn't need tidying. Anything to keep her hands moving, her mind occupied. But every few minutes her eyes went to the window, to the road, to the empty space where Sam should be. Mama. Daniel's voice was steady. Someone's coming. Maggie grabbed the rifle. She moved to the window, heart pounding. A rider was approaching, single figure moving slow. Too slow for Sam. Too casual. Get your sister, she said. Take her to the bedroom. Close the door and don't come out. But Mama, Daniel, now. Something in her voice made him obey. She heard him gathering. Rosie heard the bedroom door close. Then she turned back to the window. The rider pulled up in front of the house. It wasn't Franklin. It was a woman. She was maybe 60, maybe older, with gray hair, pulled back tight, and a face like weathered leather. She sat straight in the saddle, looking at the house, with sharp, assessing eyes. Hello in there, she called. I'm looking for Sam Brennan. Maggie didn't lower the rifle. He's not here. I can see that. Mind if I come in and wait? Who are you? The woman smiled. It transformed her face, made it almost warm. Name's Martha Dawson. I own the spread 3 miles east. Sam's been my neighbor for 7 years. She tilted her head. You must be Maggie. Maggie's grip on the rifle loosened slightly. How do you know my name? Small town. Word travels. Martha swung down from her horse, moving easy, despite her age. I heard what happened. With your husband. He's not my husband anymore. Good. Never liked the look of him anyway. Martha walked up to the porch, stopped at the bottom of the steps. I also heard Sam's in town fighting to keep you here. Figured someone should stay with you while he's gone. I don't need... Didn't say you needed. Said I figured. Martha's eyes were kind but direct. I've been where you are, girl. 30 years ago, my first husband left me with 3 kids and a pile of debts. I know what it feels like to be scared and alone and wondering if the next knock on the door is going to ruin everything. Maggie felt something loosen in her chest. The children are in the bedroom, she said. I told them to hide. Smart. You can let them out now. Martha climbed the steps, stood beside Maggie. I brought food. Figured you might not feel like cooking. She held up a basket. The smell of fresh bread and roasted chicken wafted out. For the first time all day, Maggie smiled. Come in. Martha settled into the kitchen like she belonged there. She unpacked the basket, bread, chicken, a jar of preserves, a bottle of something she called medicinal brandy, while Maggie released the children from the bedroom. Rosie took one look at Martha and decided they were friends. Within minutes, she was sitting on the old woman's lap, chattering about the foal and the snow, and how Sam was teaching her to feed the chickens. She's a talker, Martha observed. She is. Takes after her mama. Takes after herself. Maggie poured 2 cups of coffee. I was never much for talking. Learned early that words got me in trouble. From your husband. From everyone. Maggie sat down, wrapped her hands around the cup. My mother always said I had too many opinions. My husband said the same thing, only with his fists. Martha's face hardened. That why you left? I didn't leave. He did. But if he hadn't... Maggie paused. I don't know. I'd like to think I would have found the courage eventually, but I'm not sure. Courage isn't about being sure. It's about moving forward anyway. Is that what you did 30 years ago? Martha nodded. My husband ran off with a saloon girl from Denver, left me with a half-built house and a mortgage I couldn't pay. Everyone told me to give up, sell the land, move in with my sister in Kansas City. But you didn't. I didn't. Martha's chin lifted. I worked that land myself, raised those kids myself, built something from nothing, and I did it without a man's help or approval. She looked at Maggie. You can do the same. I don't want to do it alone. Then don't. Sam's a good man, one of the best I've known. If he's chosen you, that means something. Maggie looked down at her coffee. He almost didn't have a choice. I showed up on his doorstep half dead with 2 sick children. He could have. Martha's voice was sharp. Don't fool yourself, girl. This is Texas. People turn away strangers every day. They close their doors, lock their hearts, tell themselves it's not their problem. She leaned forward. Sam didn't do that. He saw you, and he opened his door. That's not obligation, that's character. Maggie's eyes burned. She blinked hard. I'm scared, she admitted. I'm scared Franklin will come back. I'm scared Sam will get hurt. I'm scared I'll lose everything again. Fear's natural. It's what you do with it that matters. What did you do? Martha smiled grimly. I learned to shoot, built a fence, hired a hand when I could afford one, and every morning I woke up and told myself that no matter what happened, I'd keep fighting. She reached across the table, squeezed Maggie's hand. You're stronger than you think. I can see it in you. Same steel I had at your age. Before Maggie could respond, the sound of hoofbeats broke the silence. Multiple horses, coming fast. Martha stood. Stay here. But, stay here. The old woman moved to the window with surprising speed. Maggie grabbed the rifle, positioned herself between the door and the children. Mama? Daniel's voice was tight. Is it him? I don't know, baby. The horses stopped outside. Voices, male voices shouting something she couldn't make out. Then Martha let out a breath. It's Sam, and it looks like he brought half the town with him. Maggie's knees nearly buckled with relief. She set down the rifle and opened the door. Sam was dismounting, his face drawn, but his eyes bright. Behind him were 3 other men, one in a sheriff's badge, one in a black coat who looked like a lawyer, and one older man she didn't recognize. Maggie. Sam crossed to her, took her hands. It's okay. We're okay. What happened? Sheriff Holloway, this is Mrs. Sinclair. Sam turned to the man with the badge. Tell her what you told me. The sheriff stepped forward. He was maybe 50, with a weathered face and kind eyes. Ma'am, I've just come from a meeting with your husband. Or rather, your former husband. Former... The man in the black coat spoke up. I'm Benjamin Cross, ma'am, town lawyer. I've reviewed your situation, and I believe we have grounds for a legal separation. On what basis? Abandonment primarily. 6 months without contact or support is more than enough under Texas law. But there's also the matter of... He hesitated. Mr. Brennan informed me of certain other circumstances. Physical violence. Failure to provide. Maggie felt her cheeks flush. I mean it wasn't... You don't have to explain, Sheriff Holloway said gently. We understand, and we're here to help. But Franklin said he has rights. He said the law... Franklin Sinclair is currently sitting in my jail cell, the sheriff said. Maggie's heart stopped. What? He showed up at the courthouse this morning demanding a writ to reclaim his family. Made quite a scene. The sheriff's lips twitched. Unfortunately for him, half the town remembered what he was like before he left. Remembered the gambling debts he ran from the people he cheated, the way he treated you and those children. They remembered, small town, ma'am, people talk, and when they talk, they remember. He paused. Mrs. Patterson from the boarding house came forward, said she saw Franklin strike you last spring, in public, said she regretted not speaking up then. Maggie couldn't breathe. She turned us away when we needed help. She knows. She feels terrible about it. A lot of folks do." The sheriff glanced at Sam. Mr. Brennan here reminded them that guilt doesn't help much without action, so they acted. "What does that mean?" "It means," the lawyer said, "that we have sworn statements from 6 witnesses attesting to Mr. Sinclair's abandonment, his gambling, his violence, and his general unsuitability as a husband and father. It means the judge has agreed to hear your petition for separation next week. And it means that until then, Mr. Sinclair will remain in custody on charges of public disturbance and—" He smiled slightly. "Threatening a peace officer." "He threatened you." "Said he'd burn down my house if I didn't give him what he wanted." Sheriff Holloway shrugged. "Not the smartest thing to say to a man with a badge." Maggie felt tears streaming down her face. She didn't try to stop them. "I don't understand. Why would all these people help me? They didn't before. When I needed them." "Because someone reminded them who they wanted to be." Martha's voice came from behind her. The old woman stepped onto the porch, nodding at the men. "Tom, Benjamin, good to see you both. Mrs. Dawson." The sheriff tipped his hat. "I should have known you'd be here." Someone had to keep an eye on things while Sam was busy being heroic. Sam's ears reddened. "I wasn't." "You were." Martha cut him off. "You rode into town and demanded justice. You told those people what they'd let happen. You made them face it." She looked at Maggie. "This man walked into the general store, Harrison's store, and asked the owner to his face why he'd turned away a dying child on Christmas Eve. In front of everyone." Maggie turned to Sam. "You did that." "He deserved worse." "What did he say?" "Nothing." Sam's jaw tightened. "He couldn't look at me. Couldn't look at anyone. Just stood there with his hands shaking while his neighbors stared at him. And then Pastor Williams stood up, said he'd failed you too, said the church should have done more. One by one, people started admitting what they'd seen, what they'd done, what they hadn't done." Sam took her hands again. "This town let you down, Maggie, but they want to make it right. Why now? Why not before? Because before they could pretend they didn't see. They could tell themselves it wasn't their business, wasn't their problem." His voice softened. "But I wouldn't let them pretend anymore." Maggie looked at the men gathered in front of her house, at Martha, standing like a sentinel on the porch, at Sam, holding her hands like she was something precious. "What happens now?" "Now." The lawyer said, "You come to town next week, you tell the judge your story, and based on what I've seen, you walk out a free woman. And Franklin will be encouraged to leave Texas. Strongly encouraged." Sheriff Holloway's smile had an edge to it. "If he knows what's good for him. And if he doesn't, then he'll learn." The men stayed for dinner. Martha had brought more than enough food, and Maggie supplemented it with bread from that morning. They crowded around Sam's small table. Sheriff Lawyer, the older man, who turned out to be a local rancher named Cooper. Martha, Sam, Maggie, and the children. It was loud, chaotic, wonderful. Daniel sat between Sam and Sheriff Holloway, peppering them with questions about deputies and outlaws and whether he could see the jail someday. Rosie had claimed Cooper's lap and was telling him a rambling story about the foal named Hope. "She's quite the storyteller," Cooper said, amused. "Gets it from her mama." "Her mama barely talks." "That's because her mama's been saving up." Martha winked at Maggie. "Just wait. Once she's comfortable, you won't be able to shut her up." Maggie ducked her head, smiling. After dinner, the men said their goodbyes. Sheriff Holloway promised to send word if anything changed with Franklin. The lawyer left her a copy of the petition to review. Cooper offered his hand and his help if she ever needed it. Then it was just Martha, lingering on the porch. "You've got good people around you," she said. "Don't forget that." "I won't." "And Maggie." "Yeah." Martha's eyes were serious. "What happens next week, it won't be easy. Franklin will fight. He'll say ugly things, try to make you look bad. You need to be ready." "I know. Do you—" Maggie thought about the back steps, about the snow, the cold her daughter's blue lips, about all the years she'd spent making herself small, making herself quiet, making herself invisible so Franklin wouldn't notice her. "I'm done being afraid of him," she said. I'm done letting him decide who I am." Martha smiled. "Good. Hold on to that." She mounted her horse, tipped her hat, and rode off into the gathering dark. Maggie stood on the porch watching her go. Sam came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist. "Long day." "The longest." "You okay?" Maggie leaned back into him. "I think so. I think—" She paused. "I think I might actually be okay." "You will be." Sam pressed a kiss to her temple. "We both will." They stood there until the stars came out, until the children's voices faded into sleepy silence, until the cold drove them inside. That night, for the first time since Franklin's return, Maggie slept without dreams. The week before the hearing passed in a blur. People came. That was the part Maggie couldn't quite believe. People actually came. Mrs. Patterson arrived on Tuesday with a basket of preserves and an apology that lasted 20 minutes. She cried. Maggie didn't, but she accepted the preserves. Pastor Williams came on Wednesday hat in hand, asking if there was anything the church could do. Maggie told him, yes, he could tell the truth at the hearing. He promised he would. Thursday brought a group of women from town led by Martha. They came with fabric and thread and determined expressions. "What's all this?" Maggie asked. "You need something proper to wear to court," Martha said. "Something that shows them who you are." "I have clothes." "You have rags." One of the women, younger with red hair and freckles, stepped forward. "I'm Sarah Cooper, Jacob's daughter. I heard what happened to you, and I want to help." "Why?" Sarah's jaw tightened. "Because my first husband was just like yours, and nobody helped me either." The women stayed all afternoon measuring and cutting and sewing. By evening, Maggie had a new dress, simple, dignified, the color of deep blue sky. "You look beautiful," Rosie said. Maggie looked at herself in Sam's small mirror. She barely recognized the woman looking back. "I look like someone who's not afraid." "Aren't you?" Maggie thought about it. "Yes, but I'm going anyway." The night before the hearing, Sam found her on the porch again. "Can't sleep. Can't stop thinking." He settled beside her. "About what?" "About tomorrow. About what Franklin might say. About what happens if—" She stopped. "If what?" "If I lose." Sam was quiet for a long moment. Then he took her hand. "You won't. You don't know that. I know you. I know what you've survived. I know what you're capable of." His grip tightened. "And I know that no matter what happens in that courtroom, you've already won." "How?" "Because you're still standing. After everything he did, everything you went through, you're still here, still fighting, still loving those kids with everything you have." He turned to face her. "That's winning, Maggie. That's what winning looks like." Maggie felt tears threatening again. "What if it's not enough?" "Then we'll figure something else out. Together." He pulled her close. "I'm not going anywhere, no matter what happens tomorrow." "Promise?" Sam kissed her forehead. "Promise." They stayed on the porch until the moon rose, until the cold seeped into their bones, until the weight of tomorrow pressed down so hard they had no choice but to face it. Then they went inside, locked the door, and waited for dawn. The courthouse was packed. Maggie hadn't expected that. She'd imagined a small room, a few officials, maybe Franklin and his lawyer. Instead, she walked into a sea of faces, townspeople, ranchers, women she'd never met, all crowded into the wooden benches. "What are they all doing here?" she whispered to Sam. "Supporting you." "But they don't even know me." "They know enough." The judge called the room to order. He was an older man with white hair and sharp eyes, and he looked at Maggie with something that might have been respect. "Mrs. Sinclair," he said, "this court has been presented with a petition for legal separation from your husband, Franklin Sinclair. Do you understand the nature of these proceedings?" "Yes, Your Honor." "And you understand that Mr. Sinclair has the right to contest this petition?" "Yes." "Very well." The judge turned to Franklin's table. "Mr. Sinclair, you may speak." Franklin stood. He was dressed well. Someone had given him a clean suit, and his hair was combed, his face shaved. He looked almost respectable. Almost. Your Honor, I've been falsely accused. I never abandoned my family. I went to California to find work to provide for them. I sent letters, sent money. There's no record of any letters or money, the judge said. They must have been lost. The mail out here, Mr. Sinclair. The judge's voice was cold. I've received sworn statements from 6 witnesses regarding your behavior before you left. I've heard testimony about gambling debts, about violence, about neglect. Do you wish to address any of these claims? Franklin's mask slipped. Just for a moment. Those witnesses are lying. They're all lying. My wife, he pointed at Maggie. She's the one who drove me away. Nagging, complaining, never satisfied with anything I did. Any man would have left. Is that your defense? That your wife's behavior justified abandoning your children in the middle of winter? I didn't abandon. Your daughter nearly died, Mr. Sinclair. She was found half frozen on the steps of the general store. Your son was blue with cold. Your wife had sold everything she owned just to keep them fed. The judge's voice rose. And you stand here telling me it was her fault. Franklin's jaw worked. She should have tried harder. The courtroom erupted. Voices rose, angry, disbelieving. Someone shouted that Franklin should be horsewhipped. The judge banged his gavel, calling for order. Through it all, Maggie sat still, watching, waiting. When the room finally quieted, the judge turned to her. Mrs. Sinclair, do you have anything to say? Maggie stood. Her legs were shaking, but her voice was steady. Your Honor, I spent 8 years married to this man. 8 years of promises that never came true. 8 years of being told I wasn't good enough, wasn't pretty enough, wasn't obedient enough. She paused. He hit me. More than once. He called our children burdens. He gambled away everything we had and blamed me when there was nothing left. And when he left, I thought it was the worst thing that could happen. I thought without him, we wouldn't survive. Maggie lifted her chin. I was wrong. Without him, we found people who actually cared. We found safety. We found... Her eyes went to Sam. We found a home. So you're asking this court to dissolve your marriage. I'm asking this court to let me be free. To let my children grow up without fear. To let us build a life with someone who treats us like human beings instead of property. The courtroom was silent. The judge looked at Franklin, then at Maggie, then at the packed benches behind them. I've heard enough, he said. This court grants the petition for legal separation. Mrs. Sinclair, you are free from any legal obligation to this man. Mr. Sinclair, you are ordered to leave this county within 48 hours. If you return, if you attempt to contact Mrs. Sinclair or her children in any way, you will be arrested and charged with criminal harassment. Franklin's face went white. You can't do this. I just did. The judge banged his gavel. Court is adjourned. The room exploded again, but this time it was cheering. People surrounded Maggie, shaking her hand, hugging her, telling her how brave she was. Martha appeared from somewhere, eyes bright with tears. Sarah Cooper was crying openly. Through the crowd, Maggie saw Franklin being led away by the sheriff. He looked back once, his face twisted with rage. But he didn't speak. Didn't threaten. He just went. And then Sam was there, pulling her into his arms, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. You did it, he said. You did it, Maggie. We did it. He pulled back, looked at her face, and smiled that rare, beautiful smile that changed everything. Let's go home. Maggie took his hand. Yes, let's. The ride back from the courthouse was quiet, but it was a different kind of quiet. Not the heavy silence of fear or uncertainty. This was the silence of people who had finally set down a burden they'd been carrying too long. Daniel sat between Sam and Maggie on the wagon seat, his small body pressed against both of them. Rosie slept in the back, wrapped in blankets, exhausted from the excitement. Mama. Daniel's voice was soft. Yeah, baby. Is it really over? Maggie looked at Sam. He nodded once. Yeah, she said. It's really over. Daniel was quiet for a moment. Then he leaned his head against Sam's arm. Good. That single word carried the weight of 8 years. 8 years of watching his father drink and gamble and rage. 8 years of protecting his sister, comforting his mother, trying to be the man of a house that had no man worth the name. He was 8 years old, and he was finally allowed to be a child again. Sam put his arm around the boy, pulled him close. You did good today, Sam said. Standing there watching all that, most grown men would have struggled. I wasn't scared. No. Well, Daniel hesitated. Maybe a little, but Mama wasn't scared, so I figured I shouldn't be either. Maggie felt her heart crack open. I was terrified, she admitted. Daniel looked up at her surprised. You were, every second, but I did it anyway. Why? Because some things are more important than fear. She smoothed his hair back from his forehead. You and your sister, Sam, our home, those things are worth being scared for. Daniel thought about that. Is that what being brave means? Being scared but doing it anyway? That's exactly what it means. Then you're the bravest person I know. Maggie couldn't speak. She just pulled him close and held on. They arrived home as the sun was setting. The house looked different somehow. The same rough logs, the same sagging porch, the same smoke curling from the chimney. But something had shifted. Something had settled into place. Home, Rosie murmured, stirring awake. We're home. We are baby. Sam helped them down from the wagon, then stood for a moment, looking at the house. What are you thinking? Maggie asked. I'm thinking it needs work. The porch is about to fall off. The roof leaks when the wind's from the east. The barn needs a new door. And, he turned to look at her. And I'm thinking I finally have a reason to fix it. Maggie smiled. Just one reason. 3 reasons. His eyes went to the children, then back to her. Maybe 4 if you count the fool who keeps trying to deserve them. Sam Brennan. Maggie stepped closer, put her hands on his chest. You don't have to try. You already do. He kissed her then, right there in front of the house with the children watching, and the sun going down, and the whole world stretching out around them. Oh, Daniel said. Yay, Rosie said. They both laughed. That night they ate dinner together at the small wooden table. Stew again, Sam's specialty, which meant it was edible, but nothing fancy with fresh bread that Maggie had made that morning before the hearing. Mama, Rosie pushed her spoon around her bowl. What happens now? What do you mean? Now that the bad man's gone, what do we do? Maggie looked at Sam. He nodded slightly. Well, she said carefully, I suppose we keep doing what we've been doing. Taking care of the animals. Fixing the house. Learning new things. But what about... Rosie stopped suddenly shy. What about what... Are you and Sam going to get married? The table went silent. Daniel stared at his stew like it contained the secrets of the universe. Sam's ears turned red. Maggie felt heat rising in her own cheeks. We haven't... She stumbled over the words. It's complicated, baby. Why? Because I just got unmarried. There are rules about how long you have to wait. That's stupid. Rosie. It is. The little girl crossed her arms. You love Sam. Sam loves you. Why do you have to wait? Out of the mouths of babes, Maggie thought. She's got a point, Daniel said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. What? He shrugged, still not meeting anyone's eyes. She does. Rules are stupid if they don't make sense. Sam cleared his throat. Well, since we're apparently having this conversation. He pushed back from the table, stood and walked to the chest by the door. He opened it, rummaged for a moment, then came back holding something small. A ring. Maggie's breath caught. This was my mother's, Sam said. She wore it her whole life, even after my father passed. She told me once that it wasn't about the gold or the stone. It was about the promise, about saying, I choose you, and I'll keep choosing you every single day. He knelt beside Maggie's chair. I know it soon. I know there are rules, and I know you've got every reason in the world not to trust another man with your heart." He paused. "But I'm not asking you to trust me because I'm a man. I'm asking you to trust me because I'm me. Because I've tried every single day to show you who I am, and I'll keep trying for as long as you'll let me." Maggie felt tears streaming down her face. "Sam, you don't have to answer now. You don't have to answer ever if you don't want. But I needed you to know." He looked up at her with those gray eyes so full of hope and fear and love. "I needed you to know that I choose you, you and Daniel and Rosie. I choose this family, and I'll keep choosing it every single day for the rest of my life." Maggie looked at the ring in his hand, at the man holding it, at the children watching with wide eyes, and held breath. She thought about Franklin, about all the promises he'd made and broken, about how easy it had been for him to walk away. Sam wasn't Franklin. Sam had never made a promise he didn't keep. He'd said he would help them, and he did. He'd said he would protect them, and he did. He'd said he would fight for them, and he had all the way to the courthouse in front of the whole town. "Yes," she said. Sam's eyes went wide. "What?" "Yes, I'll marry you." "You will." "I will." "Maggie." She grabbed his face and kissed him. Rosie squealed with delight. Daniel made a gagging sound that was completely ruined by the grin spreading across his face. When they finally pulled apart, Sam was shaking. "I didn't think I hoped, but—" "Sam." "Yeah. Put the ring on my finger before I change my mind." He laughed a real laugh, full and bright, and slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. "How does it feel?" he asked. Maggie looked at the ring, at Sam, at her children. "It feels like home." They were married 3 weeks later. It wasn't a big wedding, just family and a few friends gathered in the small church at the edge of town. Pastor Williams officiated, his voice steady as he read the vows. Martha Dawson sat in the front row, dabbing at her eyes with a handkerchief she claimed was for allergies. Sarah Cooper stood beside her, openly weeping. Sheriff Holloway had taken the day off to attend, and even gruff old Cooper had put on a clean shirt. Daniel stood next to Sam as his best man, looking uncomfortable in a borrowed suit, but proud as anything. Rosie served as flower girl, scattering petals with such enthusiasm that half of them ended up in people's hair. And Maggie wore the blue dress the women had made her with wildflowers braided into her hair, and Sam's ring on her finger. When Pastor Williams asked if anyone objected to this union, the silence was so complete you could hear the wind outside. Then, by the power vested in me, he said, "I pronounce you husband and wife." Sam kissed her. The church erupted in cheers. After the ceremony, there was food and music and dancing in the town square. People Maggie had never met came up to congratulate her. Children ran between the tables laughing. Someone had brought a fiddle, and soon half the town was spinning in circles. "Mrs. Brennan." Sam appeared beside her, holding out his hand. "May I have this dance?" "I don't know how." "Neither do I. We'll figure it out together." She took his hand. They danced badly, stepping on each other's feet, bumping into other couples, laughing at their own clumsiness. But it didn't matter. Nothing mattered except the feeling of his arms around her, the sound of his laughter, the knowledge that she was finally truly, completely home. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For stopping that night, for taking us in, for—" She shook her head. "For everything." Sam pulled her closer. "Thank you for letting me. I almost didn't. I know. I was so scared, so sure you'd be just like him." "I know that too." She looked up at him. "How did you know I'd come around?" "I didn't." Sam's smile was soft. "But I hoped. And sometimes hoping is enough." The music swelled. The stars came out. And Maggie Brennan no longer. Sinclair never again. Sinclair let herself believe that happy endings were real. Spring came slowly that year. The snow melted in patches, revealing brown grass that would soon turn green. The creek swelled with meltwater running fast and cold past the house. The first wildflowers pushed up through the mud tiny spots of color against the endless brown. And hope the foal Daniel had named grew stronger every day. "She's getting big." Daniel said one morning, watching her trot around the corral. Sam, do you think I could ride her someday? Someday. When she's old enough and you're ready. When will that be? A year, maybe 2. Horses can't be rushed. Daniel nodded seriously. I can wait. Maggie watched them from the porch, her hands wrapped around a cup of coffee. She still did this, sometimes stood apart watching her family like it might disappear if she blinked. But it never did. Sam caught her eye and smiled. She smiled back. Mama! Rosie came running from behind the barn, her face streaked with dirt. Mama, guess what? What baby? The chickens had babies. Little yellow ones. Sam said I can name them all. All of them. All 12. Maggie laughed. That's a lot of names. I already picked some. Sunshine and Buttercup and Goldie and... Rosie stopped frowning. I forget the rest, but I'll remember. She ran off again, pigtails flying. She's going to name every animal on this farm, Sam said, walking up to the porch. Probably. I don't mind. He sat beside her on the steps. Place could use more names, more noise, more life. It's got plenty of life now. It does. Sam was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Maggie. Yeah. I need to tell you something. Her stomach tightened. What is it? I went to town yesterday to see Doc Miller. Are you sick? No, nothing like that. Sam took her hand. I've been having those dreams again. The ones about Jacob, about Ruth. I thought maybe it was time to talk to someone about it. Maggie stared at him. You went to a doctor for your dreams. Doc Miller's more than just a doctor. He was a chaplain in the war. He's seen... Sam paused. He's seen what I've seen. He understands. What did he say? He said it might never go away completely, the guilt, the memories, but he said it helps to talk, to let it out instead of keeping it locked inside. Sam squeezed her hand. He said having people to live for makes a difference too. People who need you. Maggie felt tears prick her eyes. You have people. I know. That's why I went. He turned to face her. I want to be better. For you. For the kids. I don't want to be the man who wakes up screaming in the night who can't let go of the past. Sam, you're all ready. I'm not. His voice was firm but gentle. I'm broken, Maggie. I've always been broken. But for the first time in years, I want to fix it. I want to try. Maggie reached up, touched his face. Then we'll try together. He kissed her palm. Together. They sat on the porch until the sun was fully up, watching their children play, listening to the creek run, breathing in the smell of spring. Broken, Maggie thought. But mending. Just like her. Summer arrived with heat and dust and endless work. Sam expanded the chicken coop to accommodate Rosie's growing flock. He built a second bedroom onto the house, a proper room for Daniel, with a real bed and a window that looked out over the fields. He repaired the porch, fixed the roof, replaced the barn door. Maggie worked beside him when she could, learning to hammer nails and saw boards and measure twice before cutting once. She expanded the garden, planted vegetables and herbs and a row of sunflowers that grew taller than her head. She sewed new curtains for every window, made quilts for every bed, filled the house with colors and textures that said, "This is ours. This is home. This is real." The children grew too. Daniel shot up 3 inches in as many months, his voice starting to crack, his shoulders starting to broaden. He helped Sam with the heavy work, now hauling wood and digging post holes and learning to rope with patient practice. Rosie learned to read. Maggie taught her every evening by the fire, sounding out words from the few books Sam owned. The little girl devoured stories like candy, begging for more, making up her own when she ran out. "Mama," Rosie asked one night, "will you teach me to write too?" "Of course, baby. I want to write stories, like the ones in the books." What kind of stories? Rosie thought hard. Happy ones, about people who find their families. Maggie's throat tightened. Those are the best kind. Word came in August that Franklin Sinclair had died in a mining accident in Nevada. Sheriff Holloway delivered the news himself, riding out to the farm with his hat in his hands. "Thought you should know," he said. "Happened about a month ago. Cave-in at a silver mine." Maggie stood on the porch listening. She waited for some feeling: grief, relief, satisfaction. Something. Nothing came. "Are you all right, Mrs. Brennan?" "Yes." She realized it was true. "Yes, I'm fine." "I'm sorry to bring bad news." "It's not bad news." She paused, hearing how that sounded. "I don't mean I'm not glad he's dead, but I'm not sad either. He was a stranger to me long before he left, longer than I wanted to admit." The sheriff nodded. "Some men are like that. Present, but not there." "Yes, exactly." He tipped his hat and rode away. Maggie stood on the porch for a long time after he left, thinking about the man she'd married 10 years ago. The handsome charmer with big dreams and bigger promises. She tried to remember what she'd loved about him and found she couldn't. It was like trying to remember the taste of a meal eaten years ago. The memory was there, but the flavor was gone. "Maggie." Sam appeared in the doorway. "Everything okay?" "Franklin's dead." Sam was quiet for a moment. "How do you feel?" "Free." She turned to look at him. "I thought I was free before after the hearing, but there was always this part of me that wondered, what if he came back? What if he tried again? And now I don't have to wonder anymore." Sam stepped onto the porch, put his arm around her. "Is that wrong?" she asked. "To feel relieved that someone died?" "You're not relieved he died. You're relieved you don't have to be afraid anymore." He pulled her close. "That's not wrong. That's human." Maggie leaned into him. "I love you." "I love you too." They stood together, watching the sun sink toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and red. "Sam." "Yeah. I think I'm pregnant." The silence stretched. Then Sam's arms tightened around her and she felt him trembling. "Are you sure?" "Pretty sure. Martha helped me figure it out." "When?" "I'm about 2 months along, she thinks. Baby would come in spring." Sam pulled back, looked at her face. His eyes were wet. "A baby. Our baby. Maggie." His voice cracked. "I never thought, after Ruth I assumed. I know." She took his hands, pressed them to her stomach. "But here we are." Sam knelt, pressed his forehead to her belly. "Hello in there," he whispered. "I'm your pa. I know I'm not much to look at, and I don't have a lot to offer. But I promise I'll try. Every single day, I'll try." Maggie ran her fingers through his hair. "You're already enough," she said. "You've always been enough." He looked up at her, tears streaming down his face. "How did I get so lucky?" "We got lucky together." He stood, kissed her, held her, like she was the most precious thing in the world. Because to him, she was. Winter came again. But this winter was different. This winter, the house was full of laughter instead of silence, full of warmth instead of cold, full of life instead of the slow death of loneliness. Daniel turned 9 in December. They celebrated with a cake Maggie baked and presents wrapped in brown paper. Sam gave him a knife, his first real knife, with a handle carved from antler. "For whittling," Sam said. "And whatever else you need." Daniel held it like a treasure. "Thank you, Pa." The word hung in the air. Daniel's face went red. Sam, I didn't—" "It's okay." Sam's voice was rough. "You can call me that, if you want." "Really? Really?" Daniel looked at Maggie. She nodded, unable to speak. "Okay." A small smile crept across his face. "Thanks, Pa." Rosie, not to be outdone, immediately started calling Sam Papa at every opportunity. "Papa, look at this. Papa, tell me a story. Papa, can I have another cookie?" "You're going to regret encouraging that," Maggie said. "Never." Sam scooped Rosie up, tickled her until she shrieked. "Never, never, never." The baby grew. Maggie's belly swelled. Sam built a cradle, carved it himself from a single piece of oak he'd been saving for something special. "It's beautiful," Maggie said, running her fingers over the smooth wood. "It's for something beautiful. You're getting poetic in your old age." "Your fault. You make me want to say pretty things." She laughed and kissed him. On the first day of spring, Maggie went into labor. It started at dawn with a pain that wrapped around her middle and squeezed. She'd been through this twice before, knew what to expect. But this time was different. This time, Sam was there. He held her hand through every contraction, wiped her forehead with a cool cloth, talked to her in a low, steady voice, telling her she was strong, she was brave, she could do this. Martha arrived mid-morning, took one look at Maggie, and started giving orders. "Sam, heat more water. Daniel, take your sister outside. Maggie, breathe." The hours passed in a blur of pain and effort. Sam never left her side. "I can't," Maggie gasped at one point. "I can't do this." "Yes, you can." Sam's voice was fierce. "You've done harder things. You survived that night on the steps. You survived Franklin. You survived everything the world threw at you." He gripped her hand. "You can do this." She screamed, she pushed, she fought. And then, just as the sun was setting, a new cry filled the room. Martha held up a tiny squalling bundle. "It's a boy." Maggie reached for him, pulled him to her chest. He was red and wrinkled and perfect. "Hello, little one," she whispered. "Welcome home." Sam leaned over them both, his face wet with tears. "What should we name him?" Maggie looked at the baby, at Sam, at the life they'd built from nothing. "Jacob," she said, "after your brother." Sam made a sound half sob, half laugh. "Jacob?" "Jacob Samuel Brennan." She smiled. "If that's okay." "It's more than okay." Sam kissed her forehead, then the baby's. "It's perfect." That night the family gathered. Daniel held his baby brother with careful hands, marveling at how small he was. Rosie demanded a turn, then decided babies were boring because they didn't do anything. Martha fussed over everyone, making sure Maggie ate and drank and rested. And Sam sat beside the bed watching his family with an expression Maggie had never seen before. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "I'm thinking about that night, when I found you on the steps." "What about it?" "I almost didn't stop." His voice was quiet. "I was tired. I wanted to get home. I almost just kept riding." "But you didn't." "No. Something made me stop. Something made me look." He shook his head. "I don't know what it was. Fate, maybe. Or God. Or just dumb luck." "Does it matter?" Sam looked at her. At the baby in her arms. At Daniel and Rosie bickering over who got to sit closest. "No," he said. "It doesn't matter how we got here. What matters is that we're here." Maggie reached for his hand. "Together. Together." Outside, the spring wind blew soft and warm. The creek ran high with snowmelt. The wildflowers pushed up through the earth, painting the prairie in colors too bright to name. And inside the house that had once been empty, a family slept. A mother and father exhausted, but happy. A boy of 9 growing into the man he was meant to be. A girl of 6 dreaming of stories she would someday write. And a baby new to the world, breathing soft and steady in his cradle. They had come from different places, these 5. Had walked different roads, carried different wounds. But they had found each other. And in finding each other, they had found something else. Home. Not just a house, not just a piece of land, but the place where you belong. The people who choose you. The love that holds when everything else lets go. Maggie had spent years looking for that. Years believing it didn't exist or that she didn't deserve it. Years settling for less because she was afraid to hope for more. She wasn't afraid anymore. She had walked through the fire and come out the other side. She had knelt in the snow with her children dying in her arms, and she had survived. She had faced the man who broke her, and she had won. And now, lying in a warm bed with her husband beside her, and her children safe, and her newborn son breathing against her chest, she finally understood. Home wasn't something you found. It was something you built. Piece by piece, day by day, choice by choice. With hands that knew how to work, and a heart that refused to give up. She had built this. She and Sam and Daniel and Rosie. They had built it together. And nothing, not snow, not fear, not the ghosts of the past, would ever take it away. Maggie closed her eyes. For the first time in her life, she slept without dreams. She didn't need them anymore. She had everything she'd ever dreamed of right here in her arms.